Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between the SAT and the ACT in the shortest amount of time possible so that you can get on your way and have this knowledge and be able to apply it. So, what's the difference between the ACT and the SAT? The first thing that we're going to talk about is that how the test is scored. So the SAT is scored on a scale of 400 to 1600, while the ACT is scored on a scale from 1 to 36. Now this is important because in order to get a perfect score in the SAT, you have to get perfect scores on all of the sections combined. Whereas in the ACT, you can get two 35s and two 36s, and it will round up from a 35.5 to a 36, which gets the perfect score equivalent. So it is slightly easier to get a perfect score in an ACT according to that metric. The second thing we need to talk about is why the ACT versus the SAT. Well, the ACT versus SAT is for the most part based on geography. They're two separate companies that are trying to fulfill the same purpose. The SAT has been around longer, but that doesn't make the ACT any better. Your school's preference for which one you'll probably be taking is just based on geography. You might take one test if you're in Utah or Montana, and another test if you're in New York or California. It's all location dependent, so don't worry too much about that. The next difference we want to talk about is the math section. So this is the biggest difference, and I want you to pay the most attention here because this is probably going to make or break your decision on taking the ACT versus the SAT. The SAT has two math sections. The ACT only has one, but the ACT still has an extra section that's called the science section. I have beef with them calling it that. I'll talk about it in a different video, but it's not really a science section. And the reason this is important is that the ACT versus the SAT favors certain types of students over others. For example, if you are a student who's more meticulous and takes more time, maybe triple checks your answers, overthinks your answers, but tends to get good scores on your tests, the SAT might give you a slight advantage because you have more time to be able to do the math section. And you have two math sections. If you're more of a math thinker, then that might give you a slight advantage. The ACT is a different game. It's more about gleaning information quickly. The ACT math problems tend to focus more on geometry than the SAT, which focuses more on critical reasoning. So some might argue that this might lean more towards memorization of ACT formulas, like geometry formulas, which could potentially give certain people an advantage. So the last two differences between the SAT and the ACT are reading and time. So the reading section of the ACT tends to have about up to 750 words, while the SAT has about 500 words. So if you want to read less, maybe the SAT might be better. However, the SAT tends to read on a deeper level because there's less content for a similar amount of questions than the ACT, which tends to be more about big ideas and gleaning information off of passages. The last difference, and the second, or probably the second most important, is the time. So the ACT gives a significant advantage to students who work well under time-crunched conditions, while the SAT gives an advantage to students who are more meticulous and slow at going through the test. This is something I wish I would have known because I would have taken more SAT tests. I only took one when I was in high school. Had I known that it advantaged certain types of thinkers like me who go slow. The ACT, however, is great, and I was still able to work my score up from a 24 to getting 36s in every section, and it might have provided me some advantages that I didn't have on the SAT. So in conclusion, both are great tests. You don't need to take both. I would pick one and try to master that one. Just understand that there are some key differences that are going to influence what you need to work on. So to go over the differences that we talked about, the differences lied in these factors: the geography, the time it takes, the way it's scored, the reading section, and the math section. And these are the main differences between the ACT and the SAT. I hope you liked this video. Please, if you liked it, go check out my course. I do a whole course on the ACT, and I've helped hundreds of students to achieve their score dreams. Just like my video, subscribe to my page, do anything to help me out. I want to help you guys out. I hope you guys do the same. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.